as in ask. Sixth is aw, as in caught. Aw, as in caught. Seventh is o, as in caught. Now you ought to make a difference between caught and caught. It's caught, caught. Then the eighth one is o, as in full. Ninth is u, as in fool. And there is a difference of length between these two vowels. U and u. Full, u as in full, and u as fool. Now the next one is as in hut. Hut. I give you some more words like hut, shut, etc. But, bud, bud, bud. So these are the words which have the vowel hut, shut, but, etc. The next is as in heard. Now look at the difference between these two words, hut and heard. The difference is that of the vowel. In hut, it is short. In heard, it is long. The length of the vowel has to be taken care of. The 12th one is as in above. The first letter represents that vowel above. So these are the 12 vowels. We also call them monophthongs or pure vowels. Now, Jamshed, show the slide number 5.
Jamshed, go to the next slide. Yes, sir, it is visible. Diphthongs of English.
Yes. So I've already given you 12 vowels of English. They are called monophthongs. Now there are 8 vowels which are called diphthongs. Why diphthongs? In a layman's language, you can understand it this way, that they are a combination of vowels. Although this is wrong to say, it is not a combination, but then let us understand it this way at the present moment. So the first diphthong is A, as in gate, I, as in try, Oi, as in boy, Ow, as in girl, Ow, as in now, Ear, as in fear, Air, as in fair, and Ur, as in poor. Now these are the 8 diphthongs, and I've already given you the 12 monophthongs. So 12 monophthongs, 12 pure vowels, and 8 diphthongs. 12 plus 8 comes to 20. So these are the 20 vowels. Now let us see where we have problems as Indians. You know, we are following the British model, not the American model, though American model is quite in vogue these days. But in our universities, we still teach the British model of English. The problem with us Indian speakers lie with the first diphthong A, as in gate. we don't say gate, we say gate. A is replaced by A. I is not a problem. I as in try. Oi. Oi is a problem because it does not occur in our languages. Oi as in boy. And this is replaced by Y, boy. This is the common Indian pronunciation of B-O-Y, boy, whereas it is boy. Oh, this is also a problem because we replace it by the vowel O. We say go, whereas the correct pronunciation is go. Ow, this is not a problem. Now, this is not a problem at all. Yeah, as in fear, is also not a problem. Air, fair, this is also not a problem. Poor, as in poor, this is also not a problem. But there are some problems with the diphthongs, and there are problems with the pure vowels also. That is, and the problem lies that in most of the regional varieties of English, this length, short and long, is not followed. And then the confusion arises. However, so these are the 20 vowels of English. So I have already now given you the sounds of English. Let me repeat. There are 44 sounds in English. Out of these 44 sounds, 24 are consonants and 20 are vowels. Now we have to describe these vowels. Description. Describe these sounds. So first we begin with the description of consonants. But before we go on to the description of consonants, we must learn something about our organs of speech. Unless we know the exact functioning of the organs, we will not be able to describe them. Now, can we have those scanned pictures?
Jamshed, next slide.
Organs of speech.
Yes, it is there,
Jamshed?
sir, on the screen.
Jamshed, next
Yes, sir,
slide.
it is there, sir, on the screen now.
Yes, Jamshed, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, it is there. We are hearing you, sir. The screen, organs of speech is there on the screen.
Oh. Okay. I mean the diagram.
Yeah, the
picture.
diagram. Yeah, the diagram. If you click IGNU 32024, it will be visible on your screen also, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right, sir. All right. Now let's go on to organs of speech. You know, the organs of speech have been divided into different parts. The first is called the respiratory system. right? And under the respiratory system, we find lungs, muscles of the chest, and trachea. In the picture, the trachea is shown by the symbol W. That is the windpipe or the trachea. Now, this windpipe is attached, as you know, it is connected to the lungs. Muscles of the chest play a very important role. They contract, they expand. When the muscles of the chest contract, they put pressure on the lungs, and the air comes out of the lungs through the windpipe, through the trachea. This is called exhalation. Well, we breathe in and we breathe out. So we inhale air and we exhale air. Right. Now, for exhalation of air, the muscles of the chest, as I said, put pressure, they contract and put pressure on the lungs. And the air comes out in a stream through the windpipe. The muscles of the chest expand. The pressure inside the lungs becomes lower than the atmospheric pressure outside, and so the air gushes in through the windpipe into our lungs. So this is the process. This is the process of inhaling and exhaling. And the respiratory system, that is the lungs and the muscles of the chest and trachea, these are important because if we do not have lungs, if we do not have muscles of the chest and trachea, it will be difficult. We cannot speak. Why difficult? We just cannot speak. We cannot utter a sound. So that is the first system, the respiratory system. The second is the phonatory system. Now, in the phonatory system, we have the larynx, vocal cords, and glottis. Now, let us understand this. Next picture.
Again, sir.
Where the larynx has been shown.
Yeah, it is visible, sir.
Check. Now, somehow I can't see it. I can see only myself. However, I will become familiar with this later.
Participant sections है ना, सर ये जो participant sections हैं उसमें दिख रहा होगा IGNU 32024, उसमें एक बेल आइकॉन जैसा दिख रहा होगा आपको, उसको आप क्लिक कीजिएगा तो वो आपके स्क्रीन पे आ जाएगा।
हाँ, डिपार्टमेंट
के नीचे है IGNU 32024।
डिपार्टमेंट दिख रहा है,
उसके नीचे
डिपार्टमेंट दिख रहा है,
उसके नीचे देखिए सर IGNU 32024।
एक मिनट
और थोड़ा नीचे होगा, हो सकता है मे बी इट इज पॉसिबल,
हमको तो नहीं नजर आ रहा है।
समवेयर डाउन द ऑर्डर सिंस इट इज इन द अल्फाबेटिकल ऑर्डर एक्चुअली।
हाँ, अभी एक
सर दो आइकन्स होंगे, दो नेम्स होंगे,
IGNU तो आया ना,
एंड IGNU 32024 प्रेजेंटेशन। सर वो प्रेजेंटेशन वाला जो उसको पिन करना होगा सर।
नो साकेत, आई कांट सी इट
सर। above Juhi Raj.
Okay, it's all right. I can't see it, but the participants can see, right?
Yes, sir, we can see, sir.
Okay, fine. So I have the, in my computer, I have the pictures. So you have seen the windpipe in the picture. Now, at the top of the windpipe, we have got larynx. If you can see me, I am holding my larynx here, right? At the top of the windpipe. this is the larynx, and in the larynx we have two vocal cords. They are placed horizontally like this. They are placed horizontally in the larynx. These vocal cords are joined in the front, and they can be separated at the back. Right. The opening between the two vocal cords is called glottis. So this is the position. This is how our vocal cords work. They can come together, they can be separated. They can come together, they can be separated. And as I said, the opening between the two vocal cords is called glottis. Now, when they are held loosely together, these two vocal cords, when they are held loosely together and a sound is uttered, then we say it is a voiced sound. But when these two vocal cords are held wide apart and the glottis is open and the sound is uttered, we call it a voiceless sound. So let me repeat it. The phonatory system consists of the larynx, which lies at the top of our windpipe. In the larynx, we have two vocal cords placed horizontally. These vocal cords are joined in the front and can be separated at the back. They come together, they are separated. The opening between the vocal cords is called glottis. When the two vocal cords are held together and a sound is produced, then it is a voice sound. When the two vocal cords are held wide apart, the glottis is open and a sound is produced, then it is called a voiceless sound. Now let's come to the articulatory. The third system is called the articulatory system. And in the first picture, you saw in detail our articulatory system. And under the articulatory system, that is, the articulatory system consists of the mouth and the nasal cavity. Now, what parts do we have in the mouth? If we start from the beginning, we have the two lips, the lower lip and the upper lip. And these lips can assume different positions, different shapes. Like one shape is rounded. You can always round your lips as we do that in the vowel O. In O, the lips are rounded. In the vowel E, as in seed, or E as in sit, it is a little stretched. And we call this position spread. And in the vowel A as in cat, the lips are neutral. They are neither rounded nor spread. So the lips can assume three different positions: rounded, spread, and neutral. And remember, these lips are very vital for our speech. If we do not have a speech, if we do not have lips, it will be just impossible to articulate a sound like p, b, m. These three sounds are articulated with the help of the two lips. You can feel it also. P, b, and m. In all these three sounds, the two lips come together. The next is the tongue. But before I talk about the tongue, let's go to the roof of the mouth. We have the lower jaw and we have the upper jaw. The roof of the mouth is contained in the upper jaw. Now just do one experiment. You move the tip of the tongue beginning from the front to the back. You move your tip of the tongue and go across the roof of the mouth. And if you do that, you will feel different sensation on your tip of the tongue. In the beginning, it is rough, right, just behind the upper front teeth. It is a little rough. That is called teeth ridge. You can feel some lines, some raised lines on that part of the roof of the mouth. That is called teeth ridge or alveolar ridge. Behind the alveolar ridge, you feel a hard surface that is, it is concave in shape also. So it is hard and concave, and this is called hard palate. Then behind the hard palate, you feel a soft mass of flesh, and that is called the soft palate. In the picture, you can see it also. It has been shown by TR. The teeth ridge has been shown by TR. The hard palate has been shown by HP, and the soft palate has been shown by SP. The soft palate is also known as velum. And the end of the velum, the end of the soft palate, is called uvula. Now this is very important. You must be very familiar with this, with these parts of the mouth: teeth ridge, hard palate, soft palate or velum, and the end of it, the end of the soft palate, is called uvula. Now, let's come to the tongue. You keep your mouth in the resting position. Just keep them shut, and then the tongue accordingly has been divided into 3 parts. Now there is no division. You cannot see those divisions, but for theoretical purposes, the phoneticians have divided the tongue into 3 parts, each corresponding to the teeth ridge, the hard palate, and the soft palate. The part of the tongue which lies opposite the teeth ridge or the alveolar ridge is called the blade. And the blade on the frontmost part of the tongue is called the tip. So we have the tip and blade of the tongue, which lies opposite the teeth ridge. the part of the tongue which lies opposite the hard palate is called the front of the tongue. And the part of the tongue which lies opposite the soft palate is called the back of the tongue. So there are three different positions and three different parts of the tongue: tip and blade, which lie against the teeth ridge; front of the tongue, which lie against the hard palate; and back of the tongue, which lies against the soft palate. And the meeting point of the front and the back of the tongue is called the center of the tongue. Now you have to remember these parts: lips, tongue, and roof of the mouth, because they're going to play a crucial role in the description of consonants as well as vowels. Now, I draw your attention to the soft palate in slide number 3, or in the picture, the first scanned picture. I draw your attention to the soft palate. And if you look at the soft palate, you will see continuous lines as well as broken lines. What it indicates is that the soft palate can be raised and it can be lowered, right? Now, if the soft palate can be lowered, or if the soft palate is lowered, then the passage through the nasal cavity is open. And if the soft palate is raised, then it closes the passage of air through the nasal cavity. This is very important to understand. When the soft palate is lowered, the nasal passage is open, and the air stream can escape through the nasal passage also. When the soft palate is raised, the nasal passage is closed, and the air stream cannot escape through the nasal passage. Now, let me give you an example. I'm stressing on this point because this is very crucial. Let me give you an example. You must have heard, you must have seen people smoking. Though smoking is injurious to health, but if you have seen someone smoking, what they do? Sometimes they throw their smoke through the mouth only. Sometimes they throw the smoke through the nose only. And sometimes they throw the smoke through the mouth and through the nose simultaneously. How does this happen? It all happens because of the raising and lowering of the soft palate. Now, suppose the soft palate is lowered and the oral passage is closed. If the soft palate is lowered, the nasal passage is open, and so the air stream or the smoke coming out of the lungs will escape through the nasal passage only. Now, suppose the soft palate is raised. The nasal passage will automatically be closed. You open the oral passage. The airstream or the smoke coming out of the lungs will escape through the oral passage only. Now, you lower the soft palate so that the nasal passage is open, and you also keep the oral passage open. And when the air stream comes out of the lungs or the smoke comes out of the lungs, it will escape into the atmosphere through the nasal passage and through the oral passage simultaneously. So this is very crucial. Let's understand this. So now I've already spoken about the organs of speech. Just let me give a quick resume, like the respiratory system, the phonatory system, and the articulatory system. That is the lungs, muscles of the chest, and the windpipe, the larynx, vocal cords, and glottis. Then the two lips, the roof of the mouth, that is the teeth ridge, the hard palate and the soft palate, and tongue, that is the tip and blade of the tongue, front of the tongue, back of the tongue, and center of the tongue. Now we come to the description of consonants. How do we describe the consonants? Now we know that there are 24 consonants, and each consonant is different from the other. So how do we describe them? For description of consonants, Naya,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Saket,
yeah, it is visible, sir.
Description of consonants.
Description of consonants. Yeah, the kind
Yes,
of
sir, it is visible, sir.
That is slide
the
number
kind of
9.
airstream mechanism, pulmonic, aggressive. Jamshed,
Jamshed, can you hear me?
sir, it is visible, sir. No, उसके पीछे वाला जमशेद, पीछे वाला. Yes.
Hello, Jamshed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Saket,
Can you hear us, sir?
सर आप अनम्यूट हो गए हैं, सॉरी आप म्यूट हो गए हैं. इसके पहले, हाँ यार, करेक्ट, ठीक है जमशेद. हाँ जमशेद, ये सही है. आवाज आ रही है, जब आवाज दिया करे तब जवाब दिया करो ना भाई. आवाज आ रही है. अब सिन्हा सर क्यों म्यूट हो गए? सर को फोन करो.
नेटवर्क इशू है वो. वो लिफ्ट कर गए हैं सर.
Okay. So maybe that will come back.
हाँ हाँ.
बारिश इज क्रिएटिंग लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स. जकी का भी क्लास अभी सुबह में ड्रॉप कर हुआ है, बट लोग बोलते हैं बारिश से कोई इशू नहीं होता है नेटवर्क को. जमशेद सर को कॉल करो, बोलो ज्वाइन करने उनको. ओके. Yeah, he's here. Sir, please unmute your mic, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, okay.
The video, please open the video also.
Is
Yes,
it okay
sir.
now? Okay,
Yes, sir,
fine.
100%.
Okay. There is some technical problem. No problem. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we come to description of consonants.
Yeah.
Now there are different parameters which we adopt for describing the consonants, not only of English, but of all languages. There are 5 parameters. Now the first one is the kind of airstream mechanism. The kind of airstream mechanism. Now what does this mean? Airstream mechanism. Airstream mechanism means how you initiate the airstream. Where is the airstream initiated? In other words, where does the airstream begin? And when the airstream has begun, is it thrown out or taken in? I've already talked about breathing and breathing, and in breathing we exhale and inhale. So when the airstream is initiated, when the airstream is begun, do we inhale it or do we exhale it? So that is airstream mechanism. And for all English sounds, we use a pulmonic egressive airstream mechanism. Let's try to understand this. Pulmonic. Pulmonic is an adjective for lungs. So for all the English consonants, the airstream is initiated in the lungs. That is, the lungs are filled with air, and then egressive. The airstream comes out of the lung mechanism. The airstream is initiated in the lungs and then it is thrown out. So So for all English consonants, we use pulmonic egressive airstream mechanism. The next point there is a larynx at the top of. There are two vocal cords in the larynx. They are joined in the front. They can be separated at the back. The opening between the two vocal cords is called glottis. I am repeating it, but you have to understand this. What is the state of the glottis? Now let us talk of two states or two positions. The vocal cords, as I said, can be held wide apart, or the vocal cords are held loosely together. Now the air is coming out of the lung, and if the vocal test is open, there is no obstruction. But if the vocal cords are held loosely together, then the airstream coming out of the lungs will strike against the vocal cords, and it will try to force its way through the glottis. Sorry. In that process, the vocal cords start vibrating. So the vocal cords may be held wide apart, and in that case, the glottis is open, the airstream escapes freely, and the vocal cords do not vibrate. And a sound produced this way is called a voiceless sound. That is, a voiceless sound is a sound which is produced with the vocal cords held wide apart. Now, vocal cords are held loosely together. In that case, the airstream strikes against the vocal cords. It forces its way out of the glottis, and then the vocal cords start vibrating. And the sound produced this way is called a voiced sound. Per, the sound per, as in pot, is a voiceless sound in the sense that the vocal cords do not vibrate, and ba, as in by, is a voiced sound because the vocal cords are held loosely together and they vibrate. The third point is the position of the soft palate or the velum. I've already talked in length about the position of the soft palate. It can be raised, it can be raised, or it can be lowered. If it is raised, the nasal passage is closed. If it is lowered, the nasal passage is open. And the air nasal passage, if the soft palate is lowered and the oral passage is closed. Oral passage when the airstream, when the soft palate is raised and the oral passage is open. A sound produced this way is called an oral sound. What is an oral sound? An oral sound is a sound in which the air is a nasal passage is open. And for opening the nasal passage, we have to lower the soft palate. And a sound can be nasalized. A sound can be nasalized also if the soft palate is lowered and the oral passage is open. In that case, the air stream will escape through the nasal passage and the oral passage. Ka, the sound na is a nasal sound because in the soft palate. And the vowel as in arc, right? In the Hindi word arc, right? Is a nasalized sound because the air stream escapes through the nasal passage and through the oral passage at the same time. So is the case with the soft palate is lowered. Depending on the position of the soft palate, a sound can be oral sound, a sound can be nasal sound, and a sound can be nasalized sound. Now, the fourth point that comes into the description of a consonant is the articulators used. Now, let's try to understand this articulators. What are our articulators? Our articulators are all contained in the lower and the upper jaw. And we have already talked about the lips, the tongue, and the roof of the mouth. These are our articulators, the different parts of the tongue and the different parts of the roof of the mouth, and the lower lip and the upper lip. Now, these articulators have been divided into two parts, active and passive. You know, you can move your lower jaw, but you cannot move your upper jaw. You can move your lower jaw up and down, but you cannot move your upper jaw. The lower jaw is attached with the upper jaw with a kind of hinge at the back, right? So it moves up and down. And all the articulators contained in the lower jaw are called active articulators. And what are the articulators contained in the lower jaw? The lower lip and the tongue. That is the tip, blade, front, back, and center. The passive articulators are all contained in the upper jaw. And the passive articulators are the upper lip, the upper front teeth, the teeth ridge, the hard palate and the soft palate. The next point that we deal with in the description of consonants is the nature of the stricture. This is an important point to understand. Stricture means obstruction. As I said, we use pulmonic egressive airstream mechanism for the articulation of English sounds. That is, the air is initiated in the lungs and the airstream comes out. It is exhaled. So this is pulmonic egressive airstream mechanism. But suppose we do not obstruct the airstream. We allow it to come out freely, either through the oral passage or through the nasal passage. Then you cannot articulate any sound. You will be simply breathing in and breathing out. So the airstream coming out of the lungs has to be obstructed. You have to put an obstruction in its way to produce a sound. And we obstruct the airstream in different ways. And what are those different ways? That's also important. And those different ways are: one, nature of the structure. Complete closure means the passage of air is completely blocked for a brief moment. Let's try to understand this. How do we articulate p and b? In p, we bring the two lips together, the airstream. That is, we separate, we part the two lips. And what we hear is a kind of explosion. This is complete closure. That is, the lower lip comes in contact with the upper lip. The air pressure behind the two lips is built up. And then we suddenly remove the lower lip from its contact with the upper lip. And the airstream comes out. Complete closure, that for a brief moment, we put the two lips together to build up pressure behind the two lips. That is complete closure. Complete oral closure. Complete oral closure, the name itself suggests that the airstream is not allowed to escape through the oral passage. So if you block the oral passage, then the only passage open to the airstream will be closure. The oral passage is completely closed, is open, and the airstream escapes only through the nasal passage. That is complete oral closure. Intermittent closure allowed to escape. That is intermittent closure. Like, how do we pronounce r, r? The tip of the tongue comes in contact with the teeth ridge. Then it goes away from its contact. Again, it comes in contact with the teeth ridge. Then it goes away from its contact. And we do it several times and we get intermittent closure. Close approximation. Close approximation. The active articulator comes very close to the passive articulator. All right. Very close, so close that there is a very narrow passage between the two. And when the air is audible, friction. That is close approximation. I'll talk about close approximation later also, but for the time being, you try to understand it this way, that the active articulator comes very close to the passive articulator, so that there is a very narrow passage between the two, and when the air stream escapes through that narrow passage, we hear a kind of audible friction. Then open approximation. In open approximation, but there is a wide gap between the two, between the active and the passive articulator, so that when the air stream escapes through the opening between the active and the passive articulator, it escapes freely and continuously without any friction. That is open approximation. And lateral, how do we articulate l? You can feel that the air stream escapes through the sides of the mouth. The tip comes in contact with the teeth ridge. The sides of the tongue come in contact with the molars, and there is an opening on the sides at the back, and the air stream comes out through that opening on the sides. That is called lateral closure. So these are the 5 points that we use for describing the consonants of any language: the kind of airstream mechanism, the state of the glottis, the position of the soft palate or the velum, the articulators used, and the nature of stricture. Now, I've given you a model of description, how we describe. Jamshed, show the
yes, sir. The slide.
Model of description.
Yeah, slide 1, model of description. The sound ba is visible. Jamshed,
Now, in model of description, I've taken one sound, that is ba. Ba as in the English word.
Jamshed, go back.
Bite. The vocal cords,
Yes, sir,
are held loosely together. Now, I'm not talking about the first point, because the first point is the kind of airstream mechanism, right? And yes, sir, one more request. Tell me when to. Hello.
हाँ sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Ba as in the English word bite. The airstream mechanism, as I told, so we need not mention that. What is the state of the glottis? The vocal cords are held loosely together, thus they vibrate and the sound is voiced. Number 2, yes, बोलिए. आवाज आ रही है मेरी? हाँ, तो when to stop, tell me.
Will be
Okay, the
stopping
second
around
point
1
is the
o'clock.
soft palate is raised to close the nasal passage. Yes, which means B is an oral sound. The active articulator is the lower lip. The passive articulator is the upper lip. And the structure is that of complete closure and sudden release. That is the tool. Huh? We stop around 1 o'clock. Okay. All right. So the structure is that of complete closure and sudden release. The two lips make a firm contact with each other, thus preventing the air stream from escaping through the mouth. Since the soft palate is with an explosion. This is the nature of a structure which I have already explained. So this is the model of description. This is how we describe a consonant. Give you one more example of f as in the English word father. The vocal cords are held wide apart. They do not vibrate when the air escapes through the opening between them. Thus, the sound is voiceless. Yes, the sound is voiceless because the vocal cords are held wide apart and they do not vibrate. The soft palate is raised to close the nasal passage. The active articulator is the lower lip. The passive articulator is the upper front teeth. That is, the lower lip comes very close to the
जमशेद नेक्स्ट स्लाइड पे
upper
जाओ.
front teeth. The structure is that of close approximation. And I've already explained close approximation. What happens in this case is that the lower lip comes very close to the upper front teeth.
ना
So
तुम
close
फोन उठा रहे हो ना
that
तुम
there
वहां
is a
सुन रहे हो.
very
बोल रहे हैं
narrow
नेक्स्ट स्लाइड पे
passage
जाओ
between
यार.
the two,
मजाक
between
बना
the
दिया यार तुम.
lower lip and the upper front teeth. And when the air stream when it escapes through this narrow passage, escapes with an audible friction. So when you articulate, then you hear an audible friction. This is how f is produced. So this was the model of description. Now, after description, we come to classification of consonants. Next slide, classification of consonants.
Yes, sir.
Classification of consonants. It's slide number 13.
It is visible, sir.
Okay, fine. So now we come to classification of consonants. And we classify consonants first according to the place of articulation. What is the place of articulation? This simply means what are the active and the passive articulators involved. The active and the passive articulators. So the one is bilabial. The two lips are the articulation. Labiodental. The lower lip is the active articulator, and the upper teeth are the passive articulator. As in face, fa as in face, and va as in wing. Dental. The tip of the tongue is the active articulator, and the upper front teeth are the passive articulators. As in sa and the. Sa as in sang and the as in that. So sa and the are dental sounds according to their place of articulation. Alveolar. The tip
Jamshed,
or
next slide.
the blade of the tongue is the active articulator. The
Yes,
tip
sir.
or the blade or the tip or the blade of the tongue is the active articulator, and the teeth ridge is the passive articulator, as it happens in English sounds ta, da, la, na, sa, za. These are all alveolar sounds because the tip of the tongue or the blade of the tongue comes to play with the teeth ridge. Post-alveolar. In post-alveolar, the tip of the tongue is the active articulator, and the back of the teeth ridge is the passive articulator. As it happens in ra, right? Very or red. Then we have the palatoalveolar. Now the name itself suggests that the hard palate, the alveolar ridge, and the hard palate are the passive articulators. And the part of the tongue lying opposite these two parts of the roof of the mouth are the active articulators. So the tip, blade, and front of the tongue are the active articulators, and the teeth ridge and hard palate are the passive articulators. As in the sound sh, sh as in shade, j as in measure, ch as in chair, j as in judge. In sh, j, ch, j, the tip, blade, and front of the tongue are the active articulators, and the teeth ridge and the hard palate are the passive articulators. Then palatal. The front of the tongue is the active articulator, and the hard palate is the passive articulator. The sound ya as in yard is a palatal sound because the front of the tongue is the active articulator and the hard palate is the passive articulator. Then we have velar. Velar, as I said, velum, it comes from, so the back of the tongue is the active articulator and the soft palate is the passive articulator. Ka as in cage, ga as in give, and as in song. These are velar sounds. And glottal, the last one, it is produced at the glottis. That is h as in hot. That is, the air stream comes out of the lungs and passes through the glottis. And there is some, you hear the vocal cords. And this is how, so this is place of articulation. According to the active and the passive articulators, we have divided the consonant sounds into 9 different classes. There are other classes, but for English sounds, you don't need them. Now let's come to the manner of articulation. Now, what is manner of articulation? Manner of articulation is the nature of a stricture. We divide or we classify the sounds according to the nature of a stricture involved. And the first is stop or plosive. I've already explained it. That is, a stop or a plosive is produced with a structure of complete closure. Complete closure, that is, the air stream is not allowed to escape through the oral passage. It is not allowed to escape through the nasal passage. For a brief moment, then it escapes through the oral passage. As in p. I've already explained it in the case of b or p. Just a minute. In p, let me repeat it, the lower lip comes in contact with the upper lip. The air stream is stopped and then the pressure is allowed to build up behind the 2 lips, and then we suddenly remove the lower lip from its contact with the upper lip, and we hear a kind of explosion. That is a plosive sound. So p, b, t, d, k, g, these are plosive sounds. In plosive sounds, the air stream escapes suddenly. But if we remove the active articulator slowly, naturally, the air stream will also escape slowly. And if we produce a sound this way, in which the air stream escapes slowly, we get an affricate, as it happens in ch and j. Ch as in chain and j as in join. The active articulator comes in contact with the passive articulator. The pressure of air is allowed to build behind the closure. Then the active articulator is removed slowly and the air stream escapes slowly, and we get an affricate. Nasal, air stream escapes only through the nasal passage. That is, the oral passage is closed. And for closing the oral passage, you can use any active articulator and any passive articulator. The oral passage is closed, the nasal passage is open, and the nasal passage is opened by lowering the soft palate. So m, n, and n. In these sounds, the soft palate is lowered and the air stream escapes through the nasal passage. The oral passage is closed all the time. Lateral, air stream escapes through the sides of the oral passage. I've already explained this. Fricative, this is produced with a stricture of close approximation. And in close approximation, as I said, the air stream comes, the active articulator comes close to the passive articulator, so close that there is a very narrow passage between the active passive articulator, And when the air stream escapes through the narrow passage, it escapes with an audible friction. This is closer approximation. And sound produced with closer approximation is called her and her. These are fricative sounds of English. Frictionless continuant, that is, this sound is called frictionless continuant, that is, there is no friction and it can be continued for a longer period, produced with an open approximation. Open approximation means the active articulator comes to the passive articulator, but there is a wide gap between the two, and the air stream escapes freely without any friction. It escapes freely and continuously without any friction, as it happens in red. Flap. In flap, the active articulator strikes just once against the passive articulator, as it happens in very. The tip of the tongue strikes just once against the alveolar ridge. And semivowel, a semivowel is a vowel glide functioning as a consonant. That is, semivowel, we prepare our articulators for articulating a sound, and then we glide or we switch over to a consonant. We switch over to a vowel. That is a semivowel. Yeah as in yes and wa as in wait. Now the last item, three-term labels. Three-term labels. After we complete the classification of consonants, we come to the three-term label. And what is the three-term label? We give a unique name to each consonant. And the name consists of three terms. The first term tells you the state of the glottis. And the state of the glottis means whether the sound is voiceless or voiced. The second term tells you the place of articulation, which means what are the active articulators and what are the passive articulators. And the third term tells you the manner of articulation or the nature of stricture. That is how the air stream is obstructed, whether it is a plosive or a affricate or an affricate or nasal or lateral and so forth. Now look at the three-term label. Pa as in pot. Pa is voiceless, bilabial, stop. Now voiceless, it refers to the state of the glottis, which means the vocal cords are held wide apart. Bilabial, the two lips, the lower lip is the active articulator, the upper lip is the passive articulator. And a stop, or it's a plosive, that is, it is produced with a stricture of complete closure. Complete closure. Ma as in man, voiced bilabial nasal. Voiced, the state of the glottis is that the vocal cords are held loosely together. Bilabial, the two lips, the lower lip and the upper lip. And nasal, that is the oral passage is closed, the nasal passage is open. Passive articulator and nasal. Nasal means the oral passage is closed, the nasal passage is open by lowering the velum. And za as in zoo, voiced alveolar fricative. Voiced, the vocal cords vibrate. Alveolar, that is the tip of the tongue is the active articulator, the teeth ridge is the passive articulator. Fricative, that is, it is produced with a nature of close approximation. This is the structure of close approximation. That is, the tip of the tongue comes very close to the teeth ridge, so close that there is a narrow passage between the two, and the air escapes through that narrow passage with an audible friction. And all these three term labels are unique. That is, they do not overlap. And this way, you can try giving three term labels to the other 20 consonants of English. And this, the chart will, I've given you the chart of consonantal phonemes. Now, how to read this chart? In the first column, you get place and manner. Place has to be read horizontally, bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar, etc., etc. And manner of articulation, it has to be read vertically, plosive, affricate, fricative, nasal, lateral, fricative, frictionless, continuant, semivowel, etc. And then under each place of articulation, you find voiceless and voiced. The first sound is voiceless, the second sound is voiced. So now suppose we want to give a three-term label with the help of this chart, and let's look at na. Na. Now first we go to see whether it is voiceless or voiced. So this is a voice sound. What is the place of articulation? Alveolar. And what is its manner of articulation? Nasal. So na is a voiced, alveolar, nasal. Ya is a voiced, palatal, semivowel. Ka is a voiceless, velar, plosive. And with this, we come to an end of this session. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच. हाँ सर,
Hello,
आपकी
Yaya sir.
आवाज आ रही है सर, मेरी आवाज नहीं आ रही है आपको? हाँ
Hello.
सर.
हाँ
क्लियर है सर, आवाज आ रही है?
आ रही है.
हाँ. Okay, fine, sir.
आ रही है.
So thank you very much, sir, for today. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Dear students,
Yes,
do you have any question to ask from Sinha, sir? You may ask today also, you may ask tomorrow
I
also,
can
there is no
hear you.
issue.
Tomorrow
Yeah,
we again
tomorrow the
connect,
same time.
from the same
And we are sharing the slide. I request Jamshed to share the slide slowly from the first slide to the end, so that the students interested in the slides may take a snap of the slide. Right? Jamshed, please, if you can share the slide from the beginning, from the first slide. Yes.
Hello,
Dear
sir.
students. Ha.
Sir, actually, I am joined too late, so I want to recording, sir.
No, recording cannot be done. We are providing the slides only. The slide is on the screen. You can take the slides, take the snaps of the slides.
Thank you, sir, for the snap. You can provide.
Okay.
Recording will be available once the permission. Recording will be available once the permission is given from the regional center, and the regional center will share you the link of the recording if it allows us. Okay?
You don't mind, sir. Yeah, I think you are recorded this meeting.
We cannot share it without the permission of the regional center. It is the property of the regional center that will share it.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Yaya sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. कल मिलते हैं सर इंशाल्लाह.
हाँ, कल मिलते हैं. Same time, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you. Yeah, same time, same time.
Thank you.
Participants, आप लोग परेशान नहीं होइए. We will share the recording also, but we do not have the right to share the recording. The regional center will share with you. We will surely get the recordings a bit later. Once the recording is saved by the regional center, they will share with you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for today. Let us leave now. Call it a day. We'll meet tomorrow hopefully. Thank you so much for the patient listening.
Sir, please,
Thank you so
sir,
much.
excuse me, sir.
Uh-huh.
Please remove the notification of screen
बोलिए.
sharing. It is little bit disturbing for the snaps.
सारी चीजें अपने से हम लोग नहीं कर सकते हैं बाबा. कुछ चीजें गूगल की तरफ से हैं, उसको कैसे हटा दें? जमशेद
Yes,
देखो,
sir.
ये जो बोल रही हैं उसको कर सकते हो? जमशेद, if you can do
There
this,
is
which
an option to hide that.
So ठीक है यार साहब.
Thank you, sir, for the repetition of the screens again.